All right, Sarah, let's get started. It's 3:05.
Okie dokie. So my plan today, first of all, thank you for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute and chime in. If you are not comfortable with that, Kim is monitoring the chat and she will either answer your questions in the chat or she will interrupt and stop me and ask me to answer it out loud for everybody.
Sarah, do you have those little people over to the side this time?
They're on the other screen, but that is a great thing. Okay, now all I'm seeing.
If you want to, if you could put them over in your pasteboard.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Okay. I'm just saying that way when you record your screen,
great idea.
Be seen. And you could probably change the view.
That's what I'm working on right now. Okay.
And just have your face.
I have just your face right now, and because you're speaking and it's in the pasteboard. So hopefully that's okay. Can you see yourself on my screen? When
I see you. Hey, Sarah. All right, I'm in the chat and I am not crazy.
Okay, well, you are crazy, but you fit right in with me, so that's okay. All right, so my goal today is to show you guys the ins and outs of Layout Pro and how it works. And I will do my best to be thorough and quick so we don't take forever of your time. But I also know that because I'm used to using this now, maybe some things I think are obvious are not obvious. So please, if I miss something, just either stop me or chat to Kim and she can stop me, and I'll be happy to go back over things. So the first thing that I want to go over with you is just the elements of the spread itself. So when I open the spread in Layout Pro, just like Yearbook Avenue, we have two facing pages. The left side is always going to be your even number. The right side is always going to be your odd number. And then the line in the middle is the gutter. And that's where the book actually opens and you get that little crease in the middle. And so these guidelines that you're seeing right now will not print. So you do not have to cover them up and you do not have to remove them. If you're not comfortable with them, you can remove them, but I suggest leaving them for the sake of making sure you don't have things running too far off the edge of the page. This blue line is the edge of the traditional edge of your page. The orange line is the cut line. So if you want your element to literally run off the edge of the page, you need to run it past the orange line. If you want to make sure that it's 100% inside the page and not going to be cut off, you need to put it inside the blue line. The area between the orange and the blue line is risky. So it just kind of depends on what the element is, and how much you're willing to risk part of it being cut off. The same thing goes for the center. Let's not put somebody's face in the dead center of the gutter, because then when you open the book, their face is going to be in that crimp. These guidelines, which I'm going to turn on and off down here in this corner, are just there to help you align things and create spacing. They do not print. You do not have to cover them up. If they bother you, it's this little button down here in the corner that allows you to toggle that on and off. Now, another thing that I want to show you before we get started is called Snap to Grid. And to find that, I'm going to go to View and then Snap to Grid. And Snap to Grid is important to understand because of the way it moves things around on your spread. So I have my grid turned on so that I can see exactly how far the element moves whenever I arrow over. And right now I have Snap to Grid turned on. So if I select this element and I use the right arrow key on my keyboard, it's going to go over one full block for every time I push the button. If I come up here and I turn Snap to Grid off, so now it's no longer checked, it's off, and I do the exact same thing with my mouse and I'm pushing the arrow to the right button, it takes me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 taps on that arrow button to achieve the same thing. Now, the reason that this is important is because if you have two elements that are side by side and you want to make sure that they are properly aligned, if your Snap to Grid is turned on and you try to align them, sometimes it works great and sometimes it gets funky because it can't quite line them up where you want them. So if you ever have trouble with alignment, then try turning off Snap to Grid and that will help you. All right, so now in order to tell you how to design on the spread, I need to back up out of the spread and go back home because we need to do a little pre-planning to make the design actually work. And I'm going to do that by starting in Plan and going to Fonts. Now, by default, you have two fonts turned on, Foundation Sans and Foundation Roman. But there are, I don't even know, hundreds of fonts to choose from. And you can turn on any number of fonts that you want. And then you can turn things off if you don't like them. I like to use a font family. And a font family is similar to, like, well, Foundation Sans is a good example of a font family. They're all the same font, but it's a different iteration of the same font. And so I can use one font family in the entire book, but I'm really only using one font. So we know by default, they're really going to go well together. So I'm going to turn all these Foundation Sans on for the purpose of this exercise. All right. Any questions? You can speak out loud or type in the chat about turning on and off fonts. All right. So now this, I feel like this is something you're familiar with, but now we're going to move into something that's a little bit new this year. We did have this in the past, but there was never quite the importance placed on it as there is going to be this year. Meredith, I'm glad to know your fonts are set. That's perfect. So the next step is going to be to go to Plan and Styles. Now, you may have seen this. It did exist, but this year it's going to be really important. This is where we're going to enter the basic styles we want to use in the book. Good point, Kim. Editors need to, editors and staff members will need to get advisor permission to do this, but generally this is something you do together as a staff or as an editor team. And so, you know, if you're a staff member, you may kind of come into this already being done because that editorial team made those decisions. All right, so we're going to, as in pre-planning, before you start designing on the page, you're going to actually set up your styles. So I'm going to add a style, and you can name it anything you want to. Okay, and you can choose the category. I do not think this category really matters, but there you go. It's there if you want it. You choose your fonts. These fonts are going to be the same fonts that you turned on a while ago. Choose the size of the font you want, any font attributes, and save. And now I have this new style. So your goal is going to be to set up a style for each of the font options you want your students to have in the book. Any questions about styles at this point? All right, Kim, I'm going to rely on you to interrupt me if I miss something in the chat, okay? All right, so now we've planned our fonts and we've planned our styles. And so now it's time to move on to actually creating. Okay, Meredith, that is totally fine. You will get there.
Sorry, I'm just sending notes to my students.
No, I'm so glad you are. I'm so glad you are. All right, so we're going to go into Create and to Page Ladder. Now, the reason I started with fonts and styles before we ever even got into the page ladder is because the way you place text on the spread this year is different. You are not going to put a generic lorem ipsum dolor yada yada in the way you have in the past. You're going to place a style as opposed to placing a standard text box. And I'll show you that in a minute. But this is why it's so important that we set up at least one or two styles before you dive into designing your pages. By default, if you don't change anything, you will have styles set up. However, if you delete the fonts that are currently in the styles, those styles are going to go away. And when you try to work in your text box, there are no styles available at all. So if you delete Foundation Sans and Foundation Roman, because those are the default styles, when you remove the option to use those fonts, you're also removing the option to use those styles, and you will now need to create your own. I would create your own anyways, but if you notice, oh, there used to be text there and now it's not, it may be that it's because you deleted that font. All right, Are we good? I know that's kind of a lot to take in really fast. So now when I come over here to the text element, I have styles available to use. So here's anything you want to. It's the style that I just set up. I can click, drag, and drop it on my page, and it is in Foundation Sans Black Extended in size 44, just like I set up in my style. If I want to drop in this one is in Foundation Sans Black in size 18, just like I set up in styles. Now, once you place these on the page, you can manipulate them. If I click on it, I can come up here to the top and I can change the font to any other font that's in the approved font list. I can change the size. I can change the color of both the font, which is if you choose the text color, it will change the color of the text. Or if you choose this, of the shape that the text is in, or that text box. So that's all right in there. So I'm going to reset the background color to be transparent. Now, let's say that as an editor or as an advisor, you're editing and you're proofing your page and you realize, oh my gosh, they changed the styles. This is not what I wanted. What you can do is you select the text box and you choose this drop down right here that is style. And you can reapply any style you choose and it will default go back to that size and that font for you. Meredith, that is a good question. I believe that you would have to either save it as a click and go or save it as a two-part style. So you would drop, you know, part 1 here and part 2 here and use them as two separate boxes. But that's a great question. All right, hopefully I'm not missing anything else. Kim, I'm hoping you're doing this. Okay.
You are not missing anything. That was the first question.
Oh, yay. Okay. So, okay. So, well, I just looked over all of a sudden, there was a lot of text. I wanted to make sure I hadn't skipped anything. All right. So, ideally, you want all of these styles to be ready to go when you begin designing your pages. So there's no guesswork on the part of the students. They know if they're doing a caption that they can just drag and drop the one that says caption. But for the sake of designing your pages, at the very least, you have to have at least one here or you cannot put any text on the spread. All right. Questions about text? All right. Now, I am a notoriously bad speller. And so this, Kim, what is the word for it? It's like, what are we calling our spell check?
Dynamic spelling.
Dynamic, thank you. Dynamic spelling. It will underline it in red if you spell something wrong. Now, you do not right click on this as you do in like Word, but it will alert you that there's a spelling issue. You can go to Edit, Spelling, and check Spelling to make changes. Now you can also turn off the underlining errors feature, which I do sometimes if I'm writing something that is intentionally spelled wrong. For example, if I'm just doing the initials of something or a slang word instead of a real word that would be found in the vocabulary. However, be really careful that you don't forget to turn it back on because you don't want to miss those spelling errors. All right. I think that's everything about text. Kim says she would never turn off dynamic spelling. That's probably smart. Sometimes those red things get on my nerves, but maybe that's just me. Make sure you spell check though. Always make sure you spell check. Okay, let's talk about art. Now in the past, when you think about art, you think about clip art. But art is so much more than that this year. You're going to have a lot of options within your art tab. So we're going to be able to place image frames. So these are your image frame options. I love these new shape options. I'm a big fan of the right triangle and the angle. I think these are fun elements to be able to use. I don't know how many of you have ever fought trying to make the other triangle, trying to make this triangle look like this triangle. But I love that you now have the option to do both of those. I always tell my students when I'm working with them, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because you can use all of these different shapes and fonts on a spread, you know, you don't have to. Matter of fact, it's probably going to look better if you don't, unless there's a very specific reason for that shape to go with your theme. But I love that you have the options there if you need it. So you're going to place these text boxes just the way you always have in the past. You're going to click, drag, and let go. You can then reshape it. To reshape it, you're going to drag from the corner. Now, if you notice when I drag from the corner, it's like losing its like dimensions, I guess. But if I use my, let's see if I can use the right key. If I use my shift key, it keeps the dimensions but changes the size. Yes, whatever I said wrong, picture boxes. So click the shift key and you can drag this element without changing the dimensions. If you don't click the shift key, it will change dimensions. To rotate this image, you're going to choose this little like offset point here and you can turn it. If you want to turn it in exact increments, if you hold down the shift key again and turn it, it snaps in I think 15-degree rotations. If you rotate this a certain amount and you want to know what amount that is, if you choose this transform element up here and pin it open, I can see that this is currently rotated at 330 degrees. So if I add another one and I want it to be at the same degree, I can click on this, and I can type in 330, and it is now at the exact same angle as its little buddy there. All right, this is where I always get a little confused. So here's hoping I do this right. So shift allows you to move it in set increments. If you push control and turn it, it turns like the center is anchored. It's almost like the push pin is in the dead center of the element. But if you push alt and turn it, it toggles from the top corner. So it's almost like that push pin is in the top left corner. So if you need to rotate these based on a certain point, that gives you that option. To me, this is really great for, my camera is in the way of my clip art, so I have to like, this is great for shapes. So if I want to toggle this line to make it longer, I'm going to just click on the corner, and drag it, and it's going to go up and down at whatever random angle. If I click shift, it's going to pop to those 15-degree angles, so you can make sure that it's perfectly straight. If you click control and spin it, it's going to spin from that end. And if I, I mean, so there's all these different options for you in moving things, and it's a really good way to make sure everything is aligned up correctly. Questions about image frames? All right, so similarly, shapes, we have the same shapes as we had for the images, so you can drag and drop those. If you use this option here, you can affect the fill color as well as the stroke color. So if we want to make this green to match here, up here at the top, we have the colors that are already currently used on the page in case you need to reference those. Here we have a custom color palette that I set up in the colors if you want to have that available. And then here's all the other colors that are turned on. You can select from any of those. And then your stroke can be any color you choose. And there's also additionally new stroke styles. So if you wanted to change up the way the stroke looks around the element, you have that opportunity now. All right. All right, so the next thing that I want to show you is, the images. And I have some images here that I just like sourced from the internet for the sake of having something to show you. So I'm going to take a couple of these pictures and just drag and drop. Now this turns red, and red means stop. So you would not want to put that photo there. This turns green. Green means go. It will fit there. I can drop it. If I want to arrange where this young man is in the photo box, if I double click, I can then pull from the corner to enlarge it or shrink it or move it back and forth. Let's play with a larger picture so that we have a little bit more. Let's see if this one works. Double click, and then I can zoom in or zoom out and move it left and right to fit it in the shape as needed. You can also do that by clicking on this crop tool right here, and it will open up the exact same thing. Now, it will not let you zoom in forever because it's going to start being kind of like this one right here. It wouldn't let me zoom in. It's like being argumentative. The reason it's doing that is that we don't want to allow you to print anything larger than it can print at a quality level. So if we stretch that photo any larger, we're going to lose quality. It's going to become grainy and pixelated, and it isn't going to look very good. So if you find that you're trying to drop a photo and it just won't fit, chances are you need to either use a smaller photo box or find a new picture because it is just not going to fit and print well. This one, however, great quality photo. I can just zoom right on in, and we know that the quality is going to be great when it's printed. All right. Questions at this point about where we're at? All right, now this anything you want to, if I wanted to drop a photo in that text, I can do that. I'm going to hover just like I would hover over the image box, I'm going to hover over the text box, and I'm going to wait for it to turn green, and then I can let go. And now my image is actually inside my text box. And I can stretch this to change the amount of the photo that is showing, or where, see how you can see that little guy's face is zooming in and out. So that's how you're going to change that location. You can also click the crop tool and edit it that way so that you can see which portion of the photo is going to show up inside that text box. All right. We still hanging in there? All right. I see you guys are chatting about photo sizes.
So Sarah, one thing I would say is make sure they know how to get a photo out of that text,
Sure.
because a lot of times I'll go on people's pages and they're like, I don't know why I have a photo in this text, because they've accidentally dragged the photo over and dropped it in the text.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Like literally, you're going to click it so that it's outlined in blue and hit the delete button on your keyboard. And it will take the image out. It's the exact same way if you wanted to take an image out of the actual image box. Yeah, that you can hit, this is the end of a long day. You can hit delete and that image will go away. You can also undo if you do it by accident. So yeah, drop it, drag and drop to put it in there, click and delete to remove it. Good question or good point. All right, let's talk about Snap Edit. I'm going to click on this young man and I'm going to come right up here to Snap Edit. Snap Edit is going to give us the option to mirror the image left and right. You want to be cautious about this because you're reversing somebody's features, but especially if there's like text on their clothing, it'll become very obvious if you do that. But this is a good feature for clip art, for background photos, and things like that, if you want to be able to reverse that. And similarly, if you just really want that guy to be standing on his head, that feature is there. These features over here, we'll just do a really quick rundown. You can make a photo black and white, and you can adjust the amount of saturation that is taken out of that photo with your slider. You can do the same thing with sepia, which is similar to black and white, but it's more of a brown tone. And again, you can adjust the amount of which sepia is applied. You can colorize a photo, which is going to add a like filter effect of a color over top of the image. So the image colors are still kind of there, but it's almost like we've put like an orange screen atop the photo, and you can adjust that as well. Tone is actually going to have a larger impact on the color of your photo as opposed to colorize. It's going to change the tone of the entire photo. You can choose your color, and then again, the amount of that extra color that you're throwing in there. This is another fun one to play with clip art. If you use a solid black piece of clip art, tone is beautiful. I'll show you that in a minute, but you can actually change the color of the clip art to fit your school colors. So if you have a pom-pom and you have a black pom-pom uploaded, then you can come in here and select the orange that is Orange High School, and your pom-pom is, you know, suddenly going to be the exact color orange that you want it. Brightness allows you to add more white to the photo and pull out the darks, or in reverse, add more black. Contrast is going to increase the difference between the darks and the lights or decrease them. Saturation is going to add more or less color to the image. And then you can also play with your levels, and please don't ask me to explain this because I cannot, but you know, go for it if you really want to do that. All right, I say this like 500 times every time I teach a class, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. I'd like you to know these tools are here, but there's really no reason to colorize or tone a picture every time. This is great, in my opinion, for when you're taking photos that are in a gym and everything looks really yellow and you need to kind of adjust to that. Clip art in this color. Okay. It can be changed, but it cannot be changed well. So I certainly wouldn't recommend it, but I think technically they can play with it a little bit. We'll look at that in a minute. But you know, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Now, let's make a change just for the sake of showing you how this works. We're going to make this photo black and white, and I'm going to hit save. Now, if you remember last year, our snap edit, you then had to go find the photo and place it on the page. This year, it's going to take a minute, but it's going to save automatically to your spread in the place where the original photo was, so you don't have to replace that. And additionally, it's going to add the second edited photo to your image library. So now the photo on the page is black and white, and I still have my original color photo option and my black and white option in the exact same folder where the original image came from.
Sarah, I do think you can colorize things that are color. You cannot, but the problem is because they're in color, it's not true anymore.
That's true.
It's a weird color.
It is. That's very true. So let me show you what we're talking about. So I'm going to go back to my art, because you remember art's where we're finding our image frames and our shape frames. But this time we're going to open clip art, and there's an assortment of different clip art options in here. I'm going to start with this one because it is black. So if I choose this clip art and then I come to snap edit and I choose to apply a tone, then whatever tone I choose is going to be the color that that clip art becomes. So if you want it to be your school color, you can do that and it will apply. Now, if we were to do the same thing to say this green piece, it will allow me to make the change. But what Kim is talking about, and she's absolutely right, is it's gonna be like mixing colors. So this does not look like this orange. And the reason it doesn't is because that orange is mixing with this green. So you can adapt the color, but it is much more difficult to get a working color because it's gonna merge the two colors as if you're blending colors.
And again, I wouldn't trust that for print because what you see might not be what we get.
That's very true. It's very true. But it's amazing for these black elements, and you can find tons of those throughout the art. Clip art can be used well and can look amazing. It can also look super cheesy. And I've never seen a piece of clip art by a yearbook. So if your clip art accentuates the students and the photos and the story, go for it. If your clip art is filling in space because you're not sure what else to put there, I would seriously consider looking for another photo or adjusting what you have. And if you get stuck and you're not sure what to do, you can just reach out to one of us and we'll help you. But, you know, clip art is there and it can be used very well, but it can also kind of overtake your book. And we really want the book to be about the students. Questions about clip art or shapes or image frames? All right. I don't think I'm going to dive into flow, Kim, unless you think I should, because we really kind of handle that for them.
I think that that should be a separate call, because now they're not going to be designing portrait pages per se. They're really looking at probably most of their major student life designs and things like that. And we'll do that at another session, or just record a video on it.
Got it. Okay.
Let's do talk about backgrounds.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about backgrounds, because backgrounds are very different this year. Background, if you click the background, what is that, like a paint roller tool? You will see all the clip art backgrounds that are available. And if you really want to have a tie-dye left side and a, what is this, cap and gown right side, well, there you go. You're going to click it and you're going to drag it and you're going to drop it. I would advise you, if you're going to use a background, to remember that these two pages are going to be seen beside each other in the book. So if you put these two things beside each other, everybody's going to see them. And if they don't look good together, you know, if you want to, no, I totally do not like this, but I'm, you know, everybody has their own opinions. So I'll leave it at that.
You guys just caused my yearbook heart to skip a beat.
I know, but you know, whatever floats your boat. All right, so if you have these backgrounds on there and then your advisor comes to you and says, oh, heck no, get that thing off. And you're like, well, what do I do? How do I get it off? In the past, you would click the delete button on your keyboard to delete. That doesn't work. And then you're like, oh, crap, now I have to have a tie-dye in the background. My yearbook, let me show you how to get rid of it. You're going to right-click and go to Change Background. So I'm just going to right-click anywhere on the page. I'm going to change background. And this is going to give me this little pop-up menu. I love, by the way, that you can pin these things and move them around so you can put them where you want. So you can choose left page or right page, and then you can remove the background. Let's go ahead and get rid of this ugly one too. And then if you wanted to apply a background color, let's say you're doing your senior portrait pages and you want them to be black, then you can apply that as well. Now, remember when I told you those lines are not going to print. They do show through this year, because we found that in the past, when you put a background on and you lost those lines, it was difficult to line things up. You also cannot pick up the background because, again, last year we found that when you're trying to outline things, what you'd end up doing is just moving that background. It was kind of frustrating. So instead, that background can only be removed or changed if you right-click, go to Change Background, use this pop-up, and remove the background. Questions about backgrounds? All right, the bottom line is, when in doubt, don't use a background. All right, we doing okay? We've covered text.
You're doing good. You've really covered a lot of things about putting images, putting text, putting backgrounds. And so where are we going next?
So I think next we're going to go to images and how to upload them. And then we're going to go to how to leave comments on the page, and then where to find designs. That's my goal for the next 20 minutes.
All right, perfect.
Okay, images. You can drag and drop images now into this. It is going to, yes, Meredith, I save my work like every 5 seconds. Sometimes I go to save it and I've already clicked it and I forget. So yes, the reason I like to do that is that there's a history button, and every time you hit save, you're going to get a different piece of, like, a different saved history here. And so I can go back and pull on, you know, an old layout from forever ago that I did. So good point, Kim. So that's really important to save that. The other thing you can do is I can pull history from other pages onto this spread. So I'm on page 3. And remember, I told you that the odd number is always on the right. So that makes this pages 2 and 3. So I'm going to go down here to page 7 or 8, okay? And so I have this history from page 8, and I can pull and drop it on page 3. So you don't have to pull the history from the page you're working on. You're able to pull the history from any page in the book and drop it. All right, I know we're all very Google friendly right now, and we're all used to Google, but you cannot have 2 people working on the page at the same time. And I know that sometimes that feels really frustrating. There's a whole lot of like techie HTML coding reasoning behind it that I do not understand. But I will tell you that just don't do that. If you go to log onto a page and you get a little pop-up that says the page is already being edited, just get off of it. If for whatever reason you both end up on the page at the same time and you're both making changes, the computer is just going to pick one of you to save your work and the other one is going to lose it. And when you go to save, it may ask you to save as a template. If that happens, save it as a template and then email me and I can help you get that work back. The other thing is occasionally I will have that happen where I'm like, it says Sarah's on the page, but I'm Sarah and I'm not on the page. Like, what's going on? If that ever happens, clear your cache in your browser. Cache is really just a way to make your internet work faster. What it does is it says, hey, I noticed you go to Facebook a lot, so I'm just going to kind of put Facebook in my pocket instead of putting it back in the cabinet where it goes, because I don't want to have to walk all the way back over across the room to the cabinet to get Facebook out again. I'm just going to have it on hand. And so if it does that with Yearbook Avenue, it's going to say, hey, you go to Yearbook Avenue a lot. I'm going to keep that handy. So whenever somebody else goes to the cabinet to look for it, it isn't there because it's in the pocket, right? Does that make any sense? Like, I know that's probably a really mixed metaphor, but it's what I got.
Sarah, I think that if two people are assigned to a spread and one wants to work on the left and one wants to work on the right, can they do that?
They can. Good point. So anyways, if you ever have that happen, clear your cache. And what that's doing is making the internet take everything out of its pockets and put it back on the shelf so it can be accessed by everybody. And it hasn't, kind of taken over something that nobody needs to be using at the moment. All right, so if I want to be working on the left side and Kim wants to be working on the right side, that is a possibility. In order to do that, you're going to go to View, Single Page. My camera is like right there. Yes, I want to save my changes, and I'm going to view a single page view. And so now when I flip through, instead of seeing facing pages, you're going to see single pages. Now, I would not recommend designing this way. You're going to see both pages together in the book when you're looking at it, so I would design the pages together. But when it comes to working on the page, this is a great way to ensure that two people can work at the same time. I'm on page 3. Kim could be on page 2. Now, if Kim is still choosing facing pages and Kim is on pages 2 and 3, and I'm on 3, it doesn't work. We have to both be on single page, and one of us has to be on one page and one on the other, but then we can both work on the same spread because we're on 2 different pages. Make sense? All right. So let's talk about leaving notes, just to be sure both of you choose single view and no photos. Oh yeah, that's a good point. You can't have stuff crossing the gutter. Or actually, Kim, I might be wrong, but I think you can have stuff crossing the gutter. It's just that neither one of you will be able to edit it. So if I do single page view, see, it's still there, but I cannot move that. And if you're on page 2 at the exact same time, you're going to see the other half of that circle, but you can't move it either. The only way you can move it, because it does cross the gutter, is to view facing pages and then make that move. So if you have like a dominant photo that's crossing the gutter in your design, nobody will be able to place a photo in that photo box unless you're viewing facing spreads. Just viewing one will not allow you to do it. All right, comments. Here's how we do comments. In the past, it was sticky notes. The problem with sticky notes is nobody could figure out that hitting the delete key on the keyboard made them go away, and so they just left them there, and then it blocked the view of the page, and it was kind of, frustrating. So we wanted to have an option for you to communicate back and forth about your page without disturbing the design of the spread. So here's how that works. Let's say I'm looking at this photo and I'm saying, hey, that's a great photo, but what is he doing? Can I have some context? I just want you to zoom out a little bit and let me see what this kiddo is doing. So I'm going to come, I think I can do it with this slide, right here to where it says comment. And it looks like a speech bubble with a plus in it. I'm going to click that. And I'm going to add a new comment. Hey, what is this kid doing? Zoom out so I can tell. And then I'm going to click apply. So now in my comments, let me show you how to get to that. I'm on this page and I see right down here, I have a 1. Okay, that is my comment. I'm going to click on that and open it up. And I can see that I have a comment that says, hey, what is this kid doing? Zoom out so I can tell. And it also tells me, like, what is this kid doing? Who am I talking about? I'm talking about this image. And the reason that is right here is because I was clicked on this image whenever I selected comment. So I can tell that these things go together. So I can come over here and I can say, he's eating. I'll zoom out, okay? And so now we have 2 comments. And now I'm going to check that I've done that, which, you know, it's a great option because that makes the teacher aware that you've seen it. And then I can come over here and I can zoom back out so that you can see that he is actually eating an apple, and I can make that safe. So then when I close this comment tab by selecting this thing with the 1 on it, now I know that it's out of the way, that's been dealt with. The reason the 1 is there instead of a 2 is because I checked off that 1. So when your teacher comes back in and sees that you have addressed that, he's eating, I'll zoom out, you did that, the teacher checks that off and closes this, and now there are no more alerts. I feel like this is going to be good, but I feel like it's a pretty big change. So I want to give you a chance to ask questions about that if you have them. All right. Are we good to move on to how to do a design? All right. I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can do a design without actually having to do, that number is tiny, Meredith, but it's pretty glowingly purple. And because your school isn't purple, I think you're going to be okay. I think where that might come in trouble is like Mills Park or somewhere where Carborough, where we have a purple, a lot of purple on their pages. It might be hard to see. So hopefully we'll kind of get used to watching for this little thing over here in the corner, and that will help. All right, 2 different places you can get designs that are already pre-made. The first is under the tab called Designs. Kim, one more thing I need to do before we run out of time is the master template. Remind me, please. Under Designs, if you come up here to Themes, we have all of these themes already kind of designed and ready for you. And you can open a title page, an opening or closing. You can open academics or sports or clubs, and then you just click, drag, and drop. And you now have the starting of a template. You can use it exactly like it is, or you can change it. If you want to change it, there's some quick ways to make changes. For starters, we know that these are not the fonts that you chose. So if I click this element right here, and then I come up here to my style, I can apply the appropriate style for that font for my book. Headline, style, there you go. So instead of having to remember which font it is and sort through all of the fonts, you can just apply the proper style. So that's
Right. Tell them what the X's are for.
Ooh, good question. The X's means you have too much text for the size of the box. So you have a couple of options. You can make the box larger to accommodate the text. You can make the text smaller to accommodate the box, or you can delete some of the text if it's this and it's Lorem Ipsum Dolo or blah, blah, blah. So that is just alerting you that, hey, everything's not fitting in this box situation, so you need to fix it. So either make the box bigger, the text smaller, or the text less. That was a really great grammar. Okay. Now, once you've changed all of your fonts the way you want them, you can also go to Edit, Select, and Color. I gotta get my camera moved. Color. All right. Now I'm gonna get this little pop-up box here, and I can change the colors all at once. So I'm gonna choose my context, and I'm gonna choose all. I'm gonna choose my current color, and these are the colors that are currently used on the page. And I just happen to know that VI Pumpkin is not the right color orange. So I want to change that to this red, Rebel Red. So I've chosen the current color and what I want the new color to be, and then I hit change. and everything that was once orange is now red. Now, a few little tweaks. If you have a box that has two different colors, this is black and this is orange, it doesn't know which one of those you wanted to change. So if you have multiple colors in the same text box, you will need to change that manually. So just keep that in mind. But otherwise, I feel like you have a pretty good design here. Now, if you decide you don't want a scoreboard, that's fine, delete it. Just get rid of it. You don't have to keep it. You don't have to keep any of this. You can delete a lot of stuff if you don't want. You don't want any of this, you can delete it. If all
Sarah, show them how you're rolling over things and grouping them to delete,
Sure.
because that's different than last year.
Good point. So, you can just keep the parts of the layout that you want to keep. There's no need to keep things that you're uncomfortable with or that doesn't fit your theme. So if I wanted to delete, I'm going to click and drag. And instead of, in the past, you would get a red outline. Now we're going to get a solid, whatever color, periwinkle box that is. Every element on this spread that touches this purple box at all will be selected. Last year, the red outline had to be completely encompassing the entire element for it to be selected. Now it just has to be touching. So even though my box is not all the way around any of those text boxes, because it is touching it, when I let go, it's going to select that element. And then to delete, I use the delete key on my keyboard. We good? All right, I have 8 minutes, and all I have left to teach you about, I think, is layering. So I'm going to do layering and master templates really quick for you, and then any questions you have, I'll hang out as long as you need me to and answer those questions. My kids will appreciate it because they're in front of the TV. All right, I'm going to go to layer. And in layer, I'm going to have, you start with one master template. And in order to edit that master template, you're going to click the I and choose to edit it. Now, I don't know why they make an I for edit. I guess it's information, but I find it weird that you hover over it and it says edit, but it's an I. It's all right. They didn't ask me. So we're going to have a master template, and we can now edit that master template, and we can also name it. So I'm going to edit. And what it's going to open up is a blank spread. And what you're going to use a master template for is anything on the master template can be applied to every spread in the book, although they can be toggled on and off. And the advantage to this is that if you have a certain element that you want to be in the same spot on the same page and you don't want your staff to be able to move or manipulate it, you can do that and they cannot move or manipulate it. And this is really great for page numbers, or if you do want to have an element that is going to be repetitive throughout your book. So for this master template, I'm going to start by placing page numbers. And to get that, because it is text, I'm going to go into the text field and I'm going to choose page number. Now page number, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but page number is the only style that you cannot manipulate before you place it on the page. It is what it is. It's going to be foundation sans 10 in that spot. But I can change it after the fact. It is really important that you start with page number and you don't start with a regular headline and type your page number. And the reason for that is, if I have page 1 here and then I scroll over here to this side, it still says page 1. The actual page number is a smart text box. So if I click this and drag it over here, it's not going to do it right now because this is a master template. But if you drag it over here, it's going to become page 2. So if I use a page number text box, it is always going to show the appropriate page number. If I use a regular text box and type page 1, it is going to say page 1 on every page of the book. So make sure you're using the page number style. Right? I'm going to put the page number wherever I want it. I'm making it a little bit big just so that you can see it. You can also apply artwork if you would like to. Like, let's say I want a bar to come right across here. And just for fun, let's make it a crazy color. Let's see, we're going to have one be that color and one be this color. And I'm going to save. Adding page numbers will automatically remove any default page numbers from existing pages. Okay. Now I'm going to come back over here to layers. And if you would like to add a second master, you can. And you're going to do that by clicking new master template. And I've already got one, so I'm going to just go ahead and edit this one. The reason that I like to have a second one is because if you're going to have anything with a background, for example, your senior pages with a black background, you may want a white page number instead of a black page number. So you can pop that page number on, make it whatever color you want it to be. We're going to make this one yellow, and we're going to put it in the dead center of the page, and we're going to put this like, where's my yellow guy? We're going to put some clip art on here just for fun, and I'm going to save it. So now I have 2 layers of master templates. You can make as many as these as you want. So if you want one for each section, for each month, that's fine. Let me go show how you apply them to the book. I'm going to go to create and then page ladder. Because I have the master set to be master, every page now has those ugly bars and the big number. If I want the secondary master, then if I choose this master option and do the drop down, I can turn it off, or I can do the one that I called black background, and then save. And when I save it, I now have that 14 right there in the middle, and that weird piece of clip art that I put on there. Now, let's talk about what the master does on the actual spread. Numbers will always be on top. So if I put a photo here, no matter what I do, when I try to arrange, it is not going to go in front of that number, period. Oh, I'm still in the master. Come on, Sarah. Let's try this again. All right. So if I try to take this image and put it in front of this, it is not going to go in front. Like, it's just the way it is because it's on the master. So if you want to be able to control the layers, you need to put it on the page. If you want it to always be in the front, no matter what, you can put it on the master. Questions about that? This is, again, something that you're going to want to set up with your editing team beforehand. So your average staff member is not they're not going to necessarily see this and do this, but it is a great tool for setting things up before your staff actually begins to work on these spreads. So, hi Jody, I didn't see you come in. All right, other questions?
So Sarah, one of the things I might think about is showing them how to lock elements on a page and then pull something else on a page.
Okay.
Because I think the lock element gets students confused sometimes. And then also, would you mind showing us the layering and the distribute keys?
Absolutely. All right, so let me go back to sharing my screen.
And while you're doing that, you can also show them the grouping one.
Yeah, all right.
Because they're all kind of in the same place.
They are. So I'm going to select multiple elements here by doing my drag and drop feature. It's going to pick up everything. And I can now click and drag those elements together as a whole. If I want those elements to stay together as a whole, either permanently or for the sake of designing so that I don't mess things up, if I come right up here into this corner, I can choose the group feature, and it will actually put all of these elements together so that they cannot be separated. The only way you can separate them is to go back to this group, and now you choose to ungroup the elements. If you wanted to duplicate these elements, there is a button for that. If you choose duplicate, you're going to get a second copy, just like the first one. I'm going to delete that so we have space. Now, this has this box behind it. I'm going to make it a brighter color so you can see it. That's not brighter. All right. So this is actually tinted down. So if I come over here to format and effect, which is over here on this side, I can adjust the tint. I can adjust the drop shadow, and I can adjust text wrapping. So I'm just going to brighten that up so it's a little bit easier for you to see on your screen. And I want to show you the option to arrange. So this is the arrange tool, these three little stacked pieces of whatever, and I'm going to pin. And I can now bring to the front, bring forward 1, send to the back, or send backwards 1. So if I bring it forward 1, it's going to put it in front of the last element placed in front of it. It'll pull it up in front of it. If I do bring to front, it will pull it in front of everything. If I do send backwards, it's going to send it behind 1 single element. So there's the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 1. And that all happens in the order that the elements were placed on the page. And then if I want to send it all the way to the back, I can click this button to send it all the way to the back. Now, if I wanted to flip this, I can also do this here to flip it horizontal or vertical. Now, in this case, you can't even tell because it's all the same thing, but that is an option. And that would also be there for like your clip art if you wanted to reverse something, or for your photos. You can also rotate if you would like to. Now, for your photos, if I select more than 1 photo, in order to select more than 1 photo, you can do this drag and drop thing, but you can also hold the shift key down on your keyboard and select more than 1 photo that way. So I still have my bring to front back alignment. I still have my flip and rotate, but I also have this align tool. So I can align these so that they are both on the same level. So if I want the bottoms of these to be together, then I can come over here and choose align bottom. And now the bottom of those 2 are the same. I can align top. I can tell it to align in the middle so that one of them is perfectly in the center of the other one. You can align left or right, all the things. The distribute button is a little bit different. The distribute button is going to do exactly what it says, but if you have multiple elements, I'm just doing copy and paste here. And let's do these 4, and let's say that I want them all lined up. I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to align them to the top. But I did notice like the spacing between them isn't perfect. And I might not be able to spell, but it drives me nuts for things not to be spaced out properly. So I'm going to distribute these horizontally. And if you saw that, it's really kind of a small change, but it cleans why does it do that to me? It cleans everything up so the spacing is perfect.
Also, make sure your snap to grid is off when you're using this.
Correct. So I do have my view snap to grid turned off. Now, the other thing you can do is you can use spacing. So let's say I wanted like 5 points between each one. If I choose 5 and then I tell it to distribute horizontally, it's going to leave 0.5 picas between each one. If I want it to have 1 full point or 1 full pica, then I can do that.
This is probably one of my favorite tools.
I know.
It saves so much time, and you don't have to sit there and try to eyeball, is this lined up, are these the same? And it will save you so much time to learn and play with. Just play with that distribute tool.
Let me show you one more thing, and then I need to let you go because we're after 4 o'clock. But if you come up here to arrange in your what is this thing called? Menu bar?
Yeah.
And I come to mirror. I can mirror the entire spread horizontally, and I can also mirror it vertically. So you could design a spread one time and then copy and paste it onto the next spread and mirror it, and then copy and paste it on the next spread and flip it vertically. And you're going to end up with 4 spreads that all kind of look the same, but are actually different. So you don't have to work yourself to death in designing, but your pages do have a little bit of variation.
I think this is a good start for all your staffs to watch this. I think next week we'll come up with part 2, and maybe we'll go into, I know we've done one already on modular design. So advisors that are on the line, what is something that possibly we're missing that your students need help with in design that we have not touched on? Jody's quiet. Meredith's quiet.
I got a text from Jennifer about 2 minutes into this saying she was tired. She had to stop.
That's okay.
I know. I'm like, bless her heart. I know you guys are all just exhausted.
I say that if you think of something or you come across something in class or the students say, I don't know how to do that, send us a quick message and we'll make a quick video to send to you so you can show it to them.
So this is what I've been doing. You know, I hate that I cannot be in front of you. I know Kim does
Right.
too. And so I feel like this gives us a little bit of that. So whenever an advisor emails me and says, I don't know how to do so-and-so, my thought is if one of you has the question, there's probably 10 more people out there that also has the question. So like this morning, I got a question, or maybe it was yesterday, about how to use practice pages. And so I actually made a video about how to use practice pages, and I sent it to that advisor, but I also just uploaded it to our YouTube page. So if you want to follow us on, or whatever you do, subscribe or follow or bookmark or whatever you do to YouTube, those things will be there, and you can, you know, watch any of those that pop up. And we're also putting all of our recorded Zoom meetings there. So if you need to reference back to any of those, you can do that. And we're NC Yearbooks on all the things, on social media, on YouTube. It's always NC Yearbooks. So you can find us that way. And we also have links in order to like click on in the tip of the week.
So on the tip of the week, I'll put this one and the new ones we just did on practice pages and all that on Monday, but they're always going to be there. So always check that out. And if you have a question, say, hey, I need to know how to do this. We may already have made it. You just didn't see it. And we'll remind you to go have a look at it. I think practice pages is a huge thing, especially like Meredith. I know you've designed most of the book. Y'all got it laid out. So there's a little video on how to help them save stuff in practice pages right now for them to practice and use stuff. So that's very, very helpful.
And the ones that are recorded Zoom meetings are the length of the Zoom meeting, but any of the other ones that I'm making are like 3 to 5 minutes long. I'm keeping them short on purpose. And, you know, some of them are 2 or 3 minutes long, but you can go in and watch those. You're welcome to share them with your students if you want to. It looks like I don't have any hair on that one side. You gotta love a Zoom background. You know, but you're welcome to share those with your students if you want to. You know, it's just totally up to you how you use those, but we wanted those to be there for you just as an option.
One thing that will be helpful, I think, is if there's an updated list of all the things that they need to do when a page is finished. Like before it was spell check, look for any unused elements, look at it, look at the PDF, you know, those, like, I don't know if those are all the same or if they're all in the same place anymore.
Sarah, maybe we can just put together a little rubric of, we'll do that one of those together of like, your page is finished. Now check these things, ... and
Like,
send that
here's
out.
what you need to do before it goes to the editor. Here's what the editor needs to do before it goes to the advisor. And here's what the advisor needs to do before it's submitted.
Yeah, exactly. We'll work on something for that. I just put it on my list of things for us to make.
Don't let me forget.
I won't. I got it. And then I think maybe we'll come up with our list of what we think we can do in the next little training on, and we'll get it set up and send out to you guys. And remember, invite your staffs. They're all invited, or just show them the video.
I even try to behave.
Oh, well, anyway, we're here for you guys. Let us know what we can do, okay? Signing off.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.